ask you guys a question. Did Vince light a fire under everyone? Did he light a fire under Shawn Michaels, under Tony Khan, and now at least for this episode, like AEW Dynamite, as well as Shawn Michaels and NXT, did he light a fire under Impact Creative for this one night? Yes, it was recorded before, we know this, but still, knowing the acquisition was coming, did he inspire Impact to show what real wrestling was? Because we've all known, guys, we all know Vince was going to take over creative. We all know that once he takes over creative, 100%, we know creative is going to suck. Because look what happened in Raw. So, Shawn Michaels and pretty much NXT showed what if there's no Triple H, what should be shown to at least a certain extent. It was not perfect, and I didn't say it was, but it was better than Raw. Then we got a show that was bigger and better than NXT, which was AEW Dynamite and Tony Khan. Vastly better than NXT. And see it like this. This is Raw, bottom. This was NXT. This was Tony. Flat out, this is Tony. What do you think Impact gave? Slightly better. Now understand, it's slightly better than Dynamite. And I'm only saying this not because the entire show was way better. It's not. You have flat out 2 champions missing from Impact Wrestling. And they got to take shit and turn it into lemonade. And that is the reason why this show's quality is way higher than normal. They got to compensate because there's no guarantee about what I'm going to talk about here in this moment. But I'm saying it right now. You have Dynamite and you have Impact slightly being better because of the situation they're in, not because the quality is vastly better than Dynamite. It just isn't. Dynamite is a better show, flat out, 100%. But this time Impact managed to slightly got a bit above them because of their situation going into Rebellion. We are not doing anything right now with AEW going into the next pay-per-view yet. It is Rebellion that's about to happen, and that's why I'm putting it here. First match, Motor City Machine Guns versus TMDK. Now, it's not the second time I've seen them. I don't remember the guys' names yet. If they show up in Impact more often, I will remember. I kind of wish they would show up more like Aussie Open, and I don't see much of Aussie Open on Impact. If they showed up all the time, I would remember the guys' names. I just don't. Not because I'm a total blithering idiot, but if I don't see someone constantly, why am I going to remember the name? If they're not going to be in a storyline, why am I not going to remember the names? It's not because they can't wrestle. Aussie Open and TMDK wrestled great against Motor City Machine Guns. It was actually a very good competitive match. In the end, I am not surprised Motor City Machine Guns won. I'm not. I am not upset about it. And once it was over, once we got the current tag champs for Impact, bragging a little bit to Motor City Machine Guns, oh, you did great against TMDK. Maybe with a little time, kids, you'll get your shot again. Well, Motor City Machine Guns, what was it? Was it Shelly or was it Saban that said, you know, you guys, we have qualified for it. Going into Rebellion, why don't we have a match? And he said, oh, fine, another match with you. You really haven't given us anything interesting. He said, why don't we do now what was it again? A Ultimate X match. And he said, really? That's nothing new. Well, how about an Ultimate X elimination match? That's what they asked for. And supposedly he's now been booked. That's something I've never seen. An Ultimate X elimination match for tag championships? Interesting. Very interesting. I haven't personally seen one. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened in Impact. I just have not seen one. If it's not recent, it's been quite a while they actually pulled something out of their hat with this. I'm sure it's been a bit. At least more than 2 years, easily. So it's interesting. Next, a number one contendership position. Well, let me give it to you like this. We got Gretchen, we have Bayley, their third match in their series. And we got Trey Miguel at ringside, not sounding very good. And I've heard Trey before on commentary. He was actually really good. He's a little rusty. He sounded choppy. And I've heard him before, more than a couple of times before. He sounded fine. He sounded choppy. I don't know what happened. But whoever won the match goes up against Trey. This was, how can I say this? This match easily outstripped, and I know not everyone's going to agree to me. I'm not expecting to agree. But it's for me personally. When you look at people like Bayley, he's a high-flying wrestler. When you look at Jonathan Gresham, he's more of a ground-based, ground and pound, and can do high-flying when it's necessary. I love this match way more when it came to Sammy Guevara versus Commander, flat out. I even wrote it on my notes. That match was too heavily telegraphed. It was too much of a setup. It's not the fact that those guys could not wrestle. It was that the setups were just too immerse-breaking. Doesn't mean I didn't mind their match. I just know for myself, they were just, Commander had to do too many setups to make it important. Here, they did a lot of high-flying, but mostly mat-based wrestling. And they were very fluid with it. As I've said before, that a lot of high-flying wrestlers do not understand, or fans for that matter, if you want all the damn spots, you want the spots to flow properly. Not to take too long to do, but not to rush them to give you the suspense you deserve, the high that you want. And people just want to go from spot to spot to spot to spot to spot to spot. Or they're willing to let you just take 5 to 10 seconds to set up your spot, which takes away what it means to be in wrestling. Because in wrestling, you don't stand around going like this, going, standing there or just laying for nothing when we know you should get up. So when you look at this match, which had a little bit more ground wrestling, even though there was high flying in it, I found it vastly superior. I did. And it's not because I love Gresham more than Sammy Guevara. Sammy's my boy. Sammy, to me, when you look at Sammy Guevara, he is the quintessential high-flying wrestler. Mr. Is the best one I have seen in years. I take nothing away from Kenny Omega. I take nothing away from the Bucks. I take nothing away from Darby Allin, who's the second coming to McFoley as far as I'm concerned. But Sammy is incredibly fluid. He knows when to do the timing correctly. Even when the other person's out of their position, he can set it up so well. He's buttery smooth. That is my boy. But if I had to rate it for what it was, Sammy's match with Commander just doesn't cut it to me personally. It was not a bad match, but this one was vastly superior. And guess what? You got Trey getting pissed off because Gresham and Speedball almost hit him. They weren't doing it on purpose, trying to get each other. But he jumps in, attacks them both. And now, once we see, and I believe it's in my face, we saw Scott, we saw Dirty Dango, we saw both Gresham and Speedball along with Trey. He tells them, you're having your triple threat. You ain't getting out of it. Because you interfered, because you're a dick, we're giving you a triple threat. You're going to deal with it. I expected that. I'm telling you. Because of how Speedball was, how Bayley was, I expected a possible triple threat. Now, it doesn't take the fun out of it because I knew there was a good chance to have it. But here, at least you can understand by Trey's attitude. Trey is a heel that pretty much thinks he's better than everybody. Thinks that he is the best of the best. And I did see they did show some advertisement for Trey and his diary. Because right now, I've seen PCOs, which I really did like. No, not PCO didn't have a diary. It was Jordan Grace. I saw a documentary on PCO that was more than a few years ago. I liked his. When it came to Gazelle Shaw, I saw hers. I also saw, I still believe when it comes to Jordan Grace, she's really trying a little too hard to make herself more presentable, to show that she can do anything. I believe that she's kind of cutting herself out a little bit. Particularly that she's doing the bodybuilding, doing this, and she's going a little too far with it. That's just me. I'm not saying she's not beautiful, that she's not still jacked as beyond hell, but I think she's trying too hard. For me personally, I'd rather see her not as cut, not because it makes her not a beautiful woman, but it feels like she's not herself. It feels like she tried way too much to become a really competitive bodybuilder and sacrifice her normal look as a pro wrestler. Because it's not about if she's chunky, she's got to be super chunky or super tittied or super ass. It's just seeing her as herself. She doesn't look like she did when she first entered Impact. She literally looks like a completely different person that, knowing how bodybuilding, and now I'll get back to the show in a moment, knowing how bodybuilding works. I've known people who bodybuild. And the one thing people never wants to admit, when you bodybuild, counting on how much fat you cut, is how your physical look changes to the point where you can age. That happens with men, and it happens with women. And she's only in her 30s. And due to the fact, look at this, you see these cheeks. I didn't have these cheeks when I was younger. This is fat, unfortunately. I'm 51, I get it. I was like this when I was younger, legitimately. But when it comes to her, she's like this. Not because she's ugly. It's because she cut so much fat from her diet. It has changed her face, making her possibly look much older than she's supposed to be. And that happens with men too. Look at Billy Gunn. He looks amazing, but because he didn't start doing bodybuilding until he was nearing his 60s, because he's nearly 60 now, he doesn't have that same problem. As a pro wrestler, he bulked up his size to make himself look larger than he is. So when he began to become smaller, and he now also has that look to a certain extent, it's not as bad because he's done it at an older age. And he didn't do it as crazy as like Jordan Grace is doing now. She wants to cut herself as best as possible to look great. And I do expect her to win. If she's not coming in third place, I believe she might win the first place prize. I do believe that. She looks way too good not to win. But there is an issue with that. Now let's move on. I know I took too long with that. I'm so sorry, guys. Let's move on. We got, let's see here. Since we're talking about the ladies, we got Jude, what is it? Jude Threat or Jude? Yeah, Jude Threat. That's her name. An indie darling. Versus Terrorizing. Oh, Triple H's first name. Terrorizing. That was his own first name he ever used when he was beginning. Someone took Terrorizing. That was Triple H's name when he first started pro wrestling, when he was in Kowalski School. Oh my goodness, I didn't think anybody would do that. But they did it, and it fits with her. She's actually cut. She's got this. She has a good look. But when you see Jude Threat, she annihilated her. The new Marsha Slamovich, anybody? Because look what she did. She ran right through her like Marsha Slamovich did. Does that sound familiar to you? What have I said about Marsha? We just got a woman that just legitimately did what Marsha did. And she's bigger. She looks bigger than Marsha. Or she's about the same size. And she legitimately did exactly the same thing. She literally destroyed this woman. Who I would love to date. But does that mean I know who she is. No, she's from the Indies. I've never seen her before. So I can't say of India, Canada, or India around the world. I don't know. So I cannot say that she's good or bad. They let her destroy Rising easily. They let her destroy because they believe something in her. So that's not a bad thing. They just debuted a new knockout. I am not against it. But they just booked her like Marsha. So she better deliver more than just looking like Marsha. If anybody says, well, she's going to be great. No. If you got another wrestler that's just like Marsha Slamovich, you must define Marsha compared to this person. If you don't, you're just going to make them look exactly the same. And if they don't get done correctly, if you make them clash, why are you going to care unless you love indie darlings like Marsha Slamovich and Jude Threat? We're in a more major promotion than an indie promotion. They need to give us more. We need character. We need a backstory. And at least we need something more like a gimmick or a feud. Counting if you cannot differentiate her from Marsha. If anybody says, oh, the only thing you talk about is character development, a gimmick, or this stupid shit from the 1990s. Well, guess what? A lot of wrestlers from the 90s look exactly the same in their movements. How do you think they were different? You gave them something more than just let them go out and wrestle. They had to have a certain look. They had to have a certain charisma. They had to have some type of mic skills. And they had to be able to work the ring as last. Marsha, and don't know about Jude Threat yet, but Marsha is good in the ring. I never said she wasn't, but she does look like she tanks sometimes a little too easily. And she was in the segment later, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But the point is, if you got Threat and Slamovich, you must make them look different. I don't care if you have to say she's pure USA or whatever. You need to differentiate her from her style because she's just as tough hitting as Marsha. I'm just saying. Now, Bully Ray in the Good Hands versus Macklin versus Wheeler Yuta. I believe I'm pronouncing his name Macklin. I've never really been into hockey, so I never knew about him being one of the most deadliest enforcers there is in hockey. But Macklin, Wheeler Yuta, no, not Wheeler Yuta, Uemura, and Tommy Dreamer. This match is supposed to set up their hardcore war match that's going to be at Rebellion. It's going to be 5-on-5, Team Bully versus Team Tommy. Now, we already know that 3 people is going to be Bully, it's going to be Hunch, and it's going to be Skylar. We didn't know until after the match was over that Marsha was going to be involved and Kenny King. And I'll go to Kenny in a few minutes, but essentially we got those 5. Now we're going to have, Kaz as well as Killer Kelly joining in the fray. Because that's what happened at the end of the match. So, was it a good match? It was okay. It was to set up the hardcore war. That's how it's supposed to be set up. And yes, I know I did see the segment of Tommy asking Scott to join. But Scott made it very clear, I'm the president. This is my job here. This is where I belong. You got to take care of your business. You got to take care of it for me as well. I can't do it any more than that. That's just me. Now, let's get to Eddie and Kenny King. Kenny wasn't going to be willing to help him with PCO because he was not there for him when he had his match at WrestleVerse United. Wasn't there for him, so you're on your own. But he said something that made me realize I was right. He was not the one that was driving the car when PCO got hit when they were trying to have that fight in the desert. I said that there was a good chance that might be Alicia driving the damn car. And once we saw Kenny later, everyone, including myself, thought, oh, it must be Kenny who did it. Well, I should have stuck to my guns, sticking with Alicia, because when Kenny said, well, you should get the person that helped you out in the desert, I knew instantly that was Alicia. It's not going to be Davey Richards. Now, as you already know, Davey Richards is no longer wrestling at this point because of allegation of assault and spouse. Well, I don't think he's married, but the woman that he's with right now, they said that he was abusing her and battering her. So even though there's no actual proof, he said, I am basically pretty much, I'm canceling myself. He's not wrestling now. And it's not because he did it. It's because of how the culture is these days. When the allegation comes up on Twitter, you're done. It doesn't matter even if you're honest. Like a Enzo Amore or Carter when it came to Kimberly, who said that he beat her when he never did. Because it was proven with both of them that those were lies. Especially when it came to Enzo Amore, that he got fired from WWE. He was canceled on Twitter. But when they went for the courts, guess what? He was found innocent. Innocent. So I'm not saying that Davey is innocent. But once you're on Twitter, they're like the Salem witch hunts. They don't care if you're innocent or not. They've already made their determination, and they'll destroy you because of it. So, for me personally, I thought it might have been Davey, but it wasn't. It was Alicia. Because when the match happened between him and PCO, Alicia came out begging PCO not to hurt him. But guess what? She took the kendo stick, hit him in the head with it, and pretty much he lost the match that way. And then, after the match was over and PCO wanted to kill them, they had to leave the arena, jump into the car, and run away. And PCO screaming, Eddie! I'm just saying. That's just the way it is, which I'm fine with it. But I'm not going to lie here. I would have loved that this match happened at a pay-per-view. I kind of wish it did. But since they never did the match, and maybe we might get a Monsters Ball match at Rebellion, or maybe, and I'm hoping it'll be a different type of match. Maybe a hardcore match. Probably will. I would like it to be something. I would love it to be a bull rope match. Or, in my case, a Singapore cane match. I keep asking for it. Even though no one has ever done a real Singapore cane match like Tommy Dreamer and Sandman. No one's ever done it. At least on a major promotion. No one's done it. They always do an equivalent of just grabbing a candlestick and just hitting each other with it. They never do a true Singapore cane match where to show respect. Well, not respect, but pretty much when you lose the match, you got to stand there and take it like a man and get whooped 10 times with the damn kendo stick. That is real Singapore cane. But nobody wants to do it, so I'm just saying. Now, the design. When it comes to the design, and pretty much Sammy is sick and tired of the situation. He's sick of being accused of going to betray him. But supposedly, he messed up when it came to Connor, but he made up for it later, and then he messed up again. And Alan Angels doesn't trust him. And when it comes to Diener, he makes it very clear, you need to figure out what needs to be done. And he says, look, and this is Sammy, I've done what I said I was going to do. I've been loyal. I've done what I had to do. Now, either you walk away, or you let me in. Or let me have the 7th step. And he says, fine, you think you can do the 7th step? He says, yeah. Well, you're going to have to do something about authority. You're going to have to do whatever it takes and work above the authority, because only the design has ultimate authority. Now, at first he didn't understand what it was, at least until he attacked Santina Marella, who at that point had already made several decisions already in the back. And once Scott Diener, not Diener, Dirty Dango had talked, wanted revenge. That's what Dirty Dango wanted. He wanted revenge for the dictator of authority, and as his deputy, and Scott says, you're not his deputy, and he's not the dictator of authority. He says, semantics. You just give me control. He says, no, I'm the one who has ultimate control. He says, semantics. Just let me have him. And this is where the money will roll in a little bit. Let's be honest. You know you want to see it. I want to see it. Santina Marella getting back in the ring to do some work. He hasn't wrestled nearly 10 years. It's been 9 years since he last wrestled, mostly due to the fact of wanting to run his school. Real school, guys. Not just a wrestling school, a Greco-Roman wrestling, I believe, actual school. He also does that as well. But I don't think he does jiu-jitsu, but I think it's Greco-Roman. But he also had several slip discs in his back, so he really couldn't wrestle that much. But he's wanting to get back into the ring. The Cobra wants to get back in the freaking ring. The most funniest man next to Hornswoggle. And, alright, you got 3 people in WWE history that were the most funniest. Hornswoggle, whether you like them or not. You got R-Truth, who became really funny as time went on, because he wasn't funny in the beginning. And the most funniest of them all, Santina Marella. Flat out, no lie in the recent history of WWE. And now he's willing to get back in the ring for Rebellion for maybe a one-off. Many people would love to see him wrestle again, particularly that when he had the option around, 2014, with Daniel Bryan to wrestle him to try and win a championship? Are you serious? I was for him winning because he was that hot in WWE before he finished his run. He was that over. And we got a diminished Santina Marella, who's about my age almost. But it doesn't mean if he's still capable of going, even for one-off, why not see it? This is a top quality thing. To see a Santina Marella get in the ring, I'm just saying. Okay, what else do we have here? Tasha Steelz had a moment, and we're going to have a match next week against... I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that alone because I want to see how it's going to develop between Tasha Steelz and Gazelle Shaw. I'm going to leave it. I do have an opinion, but I'm going to leave it. I did like Deonna Purrazzo's promo, her video, and her promo in it, saying that she's got a lot to go through, that she's been a 4-time champ, which is true. She held 3 belts, which is true. And now she doesn't know about Jordynne Grace. She's never lost to Jordynne, but she has lost to Mickie. And now we still don't know about Mickie James. It's going to be hard, but she's going to make sure by Rebellion she's going to win. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was good for me personally. Other people might not like it. Now, let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting here. If I am, I'm sorry. Let's put it to you like this. Was the quality of the show good? Before I get to the final part, which is Josh Alexander relinquishing his title. I'm going to say this. When it came to the final segment and the majority of the show, audio was good. Lighting was good. We can hear the fans very well, which I like. They may not have been incredibly loud, but we did hear them in Canada. Windsor and Ontario, Canada, I believe that's where it was. I think that's where it was. But essentially, all the major things were done. Now, mind you, there's going to be people that's not going to like the overhead cam shot on a crane. There's going to be people that are not going to like it. I don't know if anyone's going to like it. Me personally, knowing that when they don't have the proper angles and they're doing this, going to the crane cam, I'm fine with it. Because at least with the crane cam, you can see what's going on in the ring. And it is a different perspective. Not everyone has done that. Doing an overhead shot of the ring. Yes, they'll do a higher shot, but an overhead moving shot, I'm not saying it's always good, but it is different. And I can tell you, that's something we don't get in wrestling. And seeing the impact, at least in this episode, hopefully in the next continuing tapings, that when they know they can't do the shots correctly, wherever shots they know they can have a wide shot, they go to a cam shot on the crane cam. I'm fine with it, as long as they don't overdo it. Finally, relinquishing the title. Macklin was in the ring. Kushida was in the ring. Scott put over a little bit of Macklin and a little bit of Kushida, but then we get Josh coming out with his wife and his son. Now, let me give it to you like this. Was the vid pack for Josh done well? Yes. Did I like it? It was alright. Knowing that he's been champ for 348 days? Was it 348? What was it? Where did I put it? Yep, 348 days. His longest one in history. No one has had the Impact Championship longer than that. So, give it to him for that. They let him run with it for quite a long time. Do I believe he needed to drop it earlier than that? Yes. He could have dropped it to Kaz or to Alex Shelley. That's the person I think he should have dropped it to the most. I would have loved to see Alex Shelley run. But they let him hold on to it. And he put over Kushida. He put over Macklin. Particularly Macklin saying simply, I know I don't agree with your tactics, but you more than earned it. I've been watching you. I see how hard you grind. Just like me. He didn't say it like that, but that's what he was getting at. But he made it very clear that when he recovers, he's coming after that title, whoever has it. But the thing that I liked the most was Macklin clearly healing it up and trying to mess with Josh, saying that his injury was his opt-out because he was scared. And the person that jumped down Macklin's throat was Scott D'Amore. I didn't have a problem with that. Not everyone is going to like Scott when he talks. Not everyone does. Not many people really like Scott when they talk. There's some that love him. There's some that's always in between that's okay. And there's going to be some that's just, oh, Scott is annoying. I just don't like him. Me personally, I can like him. I have no problem with him. He's the president. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes he gets into the ring. Hell, he did a Canadian Destroyer on, I believe it was Skylar, which was fine. I would like to see him in the ring. I want to see him wrestle Bully Ray. I think that's where it should eventually go. Like it's an anniversary. He's really angry at Bully Ray. He can't stand him. He wrestles him. I would like to see that. But that's just me. But this entire segment was good. In the end, Kushida basically attacked Macklin because Macklin was going to attack Kushida or Josh because his arm was still in a sling. And almost forgot, Josh's son did not want Josh to give the title because he understood what was going on. And he wasn't happy his dad had to give up the title. So when his dad was about to hand it to Scott, and I don't believe I have the shot of him grabbing it. If I do, it's in my face. Literally, he grabbed that title and held on to it. He did not want to give the damn title up. That was Scott's son. So, not Scott, Josh. Sorry, I said Scott. When it came to Josh, his son refused to hand that title over. And his mother was shocked that he did that. Unless it was staged. It's a possibility it was staged. If it was not staged, then his son literally did something spontaneous that was special. But I think his mother probably told him, go and grab daddy's title. And grabbed it, held it. He did look like he might have been crying. So that might actually have been real. That would have been really special. But I will tell you this. After seeing what results Raw gave, we had a better NXT than Raw. We had a better Dynamite than NXT. Here, Raw. NXT, easily. This is Raw. NXT, easily. Then we got easily Dynamite. And I said before, Impact is here. And it's mainly due to the fact they now have lost at this moment, because we still don't know about Mickie James reaching Rebellion. She probably will wrestle, but if she still can't, they lost both their champions. They lost the Knockouts champion, and they had lost literally their main champion to a tricep injury. He's out. That could be up to 6 to 9 months. Maybe. If he rehabs it, maybe he might get back by 4, but he could be out for 6 to 9 months. Depends on how he heals. And we don't know about Mickie James. She may not still be cleared to wrestle with a messed up rib. She may not be able to if she's legitimately hurt and still hurt. So they had to hustle to fix the issue. Now, do I believe they did a great job? It wasn't spectacular, but it's way better than Raw. And like I said, will this put a fire under them? Now that Endeavor has literally bought WWE. And Vince is back to booking because I don't believe he isn't. I believe he will. I think he's going to book both shows. Some people say that Triple H is going to book SmackDown. I don't believe he will. If he does, it'll be brief, and then Vince will book both shows. We're going to see a shift in how there's so much happiness with the fans of WWE since WrestleMania, and that sucker's going to start sliding down. If Vince starts booking exactly as he's been doing, particularly what he did this Raw, and Triple H doesn't do it for him, they're going to end up exactly as they did in last year of July before he left. But it's just me, and please give me a comment below. Give me a like if you will. A little bit of a Desert Road. Give me a little like if you will, baby. Peace.